Respected chairpersons, I'm very happy to address this elite audience. And before I start, I'd love to thank Dr. Banji Sabu, Dr. Vasant Kumar, Dr. Sanjay Agarwal, and all other friends here and the RSA members. And thank you all for inviting me to give the guest lecture. So as G.C. Reddy, I know him also for quite some time, and he has come here. And I'm also happy to be talking in the same session with Professor Ashok Kumar Das, A.K. Das. So my topic will be on this topic. This is quite a little look out of the way, but I want to speak on that. So friends, now we have forgotten our own ancestors, and let me now remind you that our country has got lots of science, but very rarely is what you call taken consideration. That's why I thought this one, all life course events are programmed in the womb. Thus spoke Chanakya, the visionary. So with this introduction, I am going to speak here estimation and projection of the diabetes in the world 2079. It will be from 463 2019 to about 700 in 2045. So now the problem is here. You will see this slide here. 2019 463, it has gone within 2 years 60% increase. So your projection was supposed for 54. My projection is going to be 10%. That is going to be the problem you are going to face. Now, and here the pre-diabetes approximately 318 million, which is likely to increase to about 481 million by 2040. And finally, now we are all thinking diabetes is an epidemic of unprecedented magnitude, but lately IDF has come out with the idea saying that diabetes is a pandemic. So we have slowly to become a disease like going to prevent like COVID pandemic disease, and I don't know. And as Rajaput was talking, probably it can become universal also. So with this difficult problem they are going to face in this world, is there a hope to reverse this trend? How can you do the room to focus? So that is why I told here, I take this acronym from that of Chanakya. He said about 2000 years ago that when a life gets seeded in a mother's womb, its age, deeds, wealth, education, death, along determine right. So he said everything starts from the womb. So this Acharya Chanakya was a philosopher, economist, teacher, jurist, and royal advisor. He has compiled 2 books, Arthashastra and Chanakya Niti. So I take this particular slogan from his book, saying that when this is what everything starts in the womb. So how that, having taken that particular point 2000 years ago, now see what happened this century. After 2000 years, in India nothing has happened. People are working here and there. Now this Dr. David Barker from UK suggested the body's susceptibility to lifestyle diseases was programmed interrupted. It is similar to what Chanakya told. But this concept was almost sleeping. Suddenly after 2000 it has come back to the life. Now he said like Chanakya, whom programmed intrauterine. So what a beautiful statement he has made. Now you will see here, in vitro fertilization, the worm is well supplied to the mitochondria. That is very important message. But the sperm contains a few, and even those few do not persist in the offspring. That shows worm is very important, mother is very important here. At fertilization is only the nucleus of this protozoan that enters the ovum, and thus all the cytoplasm, mitochondria, and mitochondrial DNA are exclusively maternally oriented. So this concept 2000 years ago, how the Chanakya made that statement, everything from the womb. So maternally inherited. And further, in terms of programming here, gestational programming is a process whereby stimuli, hyperglycemia, stresses that occur at critical, sensitive periods of fetal development. Once anything changes here, for example, hyperglycemia permanently change the structure, physiology, and metabolism, which predispose individuals to disease in adult life. That's over. Your future is sealed here. When the intrauterine life you go to hyperglycemia as mother, that child is going to get all the problem with the world and the NCD, as I Dr. Rajput was talking, fetal origin of adult diseases. From Chanakya, I have come to now David Barker. Now, what he said was maternal inheritance. It's attributed to the mutation in the gene present on mitochondrial DNA and is transmitted invariably by an affected mother to her progeny. That means the father is not taken into consideration at all. See, from Chanakya and David Barker, everybody, it is from mother only to her progeny. So you have to be very careful. Think mostly about the woman who is going to bear the child. In this, the unique feature of mitochondrial DNA is this maternal inheritance. That means both our Chanakya and David Barker is completely telling everything from the womb. So having dealt with this, I will see here a small discussion here. Diabetes mellitus. Is it inherited destiny or going to get from inherited from parents, genetics, or intrauterine, which is more vital compared to both of these, inherited destiny and intrauterine. This is a very beautiful slide here. Increasing prevalence of diabetes in children. It's an extremely nice statement made. The observation: the offspring of Pima Indians who were hetero, when their mother had diabetes, have a greater risk of diabetes than earlier siblings. So, born before the mother developed diabetes. That means anybody born before will develop diabetes. Whereas an increase in the frequency of exposure to diabetes in vitro appears an important feature of the diabetes epidemic. That clearly shows, again, uterus plays a vital role, and the child developing the uterus is going to develop diabetes when the mother has diabetes. And not only here, it is proved also by people, by experimental animals. Here, what they want to know, it is going to gene or intrauterine environment. This statement is very nice study. Western rats, the low genetic risk of diabetes, they don't develop diabetes at all, no risk. So what they've done is, when exposed to hyperglycemia media of goat rat, vitro, which is very vulnerable for the diabetes, hyperglycemia, what happened? Significantly increased the risk of diabetes in the adult life. The rat is not genetically risk, but unfortunately, when they transmit into the hyperglycemic uterus of the goat rat, that rat develops diabetes. So both studies, human being and animals, they have proved clearly the intrauterine programming is very important. Thus, exposure to diabetic environment in vitro is associated with the increased occurrence of impaired glucose tolerance and defective insulin secretory response in adult offspring, independent of genetic predisposition to type 2 diabetes. So we can conclude here, intrauterine milieu is more important than both can occur, both can contribute, but intrauterine milieu is more important than the inherited destiny. So having completed this particular statement, now we go to another hypothesis. This recent Norman Frankel hypothesis as mixed nutrients. We all thought about hyperglycemia, but he is telling you another way of mixed nutrients. Influence of maternal fuels during pregnancy, that's called fuel-mediated teratogenesis, as the basis for long-range anatomic and functional changes in the fetus. So he is a little more wider than only glucose. He thinks about other metal fuels also. It has been proved, though targeting intervention in early pregnancy beyond glucose may be critical to improve fetal growth patterns. So this is what that means he said a very beautiful statement here. Pregnancy is a tissue culture experience. So the influence of maternal nutrient on phenotype fetal gene, abnormal mixture of maternal nutrients, gain access to the developing fetus and modify phenotype gene expression in DNA forming cells, and thereby causing permanent short and long-term effects on the offspring. So that's what Louise Joni, another great lady who proposes is no more, made a very good statement here. So summing up so far, Modified Frenkel's and Peter's hypothesis affects the maternal fuels on offspring development. What here this picture shows pregnant diabetic, hypertensive pregnancy, insulin level is low. As a consequence, plasma glucose goes up, amino acid goes up, their lipid also going up. This is called mixed nutrient. This mixed nutrient crosses the placenta and goes to the fetal compartment where it stimulates insulin in the fetal pancreas. Child develop macrosomia because nutrient is available, insulin available, so child develop macrosomia. The child born neonatal may go to hypoglycemia because its environment is changed. What is important here, when the child grows, if it is male, they develop obesity and impaired glucose tolerance. And finally, it may develop diabetes. But the problem will be here, pregnant diabetes is there, and this child happens to be female. Suppose she develops obesity, the next step will be she will become GDM. So again diabetes. So pregnant diabetes again leads on to diabetes, and then her own child, female child, she becomes diabetic. So that is why what we call here vicious cycle of diabetes begetting diabetes. So up to this chapter is over. Now I will go to another chapter, fetal placental maternity. I want to share with you. Long ago, was started in 1880 itself by Professor Samuel Moses, Professor Phillips, and myself, first of its kind in the country. This was started in the Institute of Obstetric Gynecology, or those at Department of Medical Hospital. Very one of the oldest institute in Asia. This is where it was started. Now, why this started? Because we are aware of this problem of diabetes occurring in the pregnancy. This is a very big terminology. Those days we call fetal, placental, maternal, hormonal, metabolic interaction implications. Such a big, because all these things involved in the pregnancy and child development. So, of course, now we call diabetes pregnancy services, but this is the original name was fetal placental maternal unit. Now, coming back to here, why this fetal placental utero apparatus? That is called apparatus because all three together during intrauterine life of the fetus, the membranes, the cord and the placenta form an organic whole, the complete apparatus, and disease of any part must react upon and affect the others. That is what that's why you call fetal placental apparatus. Any one interlinked here. And now we'll see what could happen. Next step will be what happens pregnancy. So a new structure develops de novo during pregnancy, and matures till it is expelled at the completion of the gestation period, in the intrauterine period. So the metabolic adaptations that occur during pregnancy are to, that's what our aim, natural aim is, metabolic adaptations that occur during pregnancy are to accommodate a rapidly growing tissue transplant. That's called transplant because it's going to come out. The concept test. The concept means here placenta and fetus, they call concept test. So this is what happens in the pregnancy. Now having dealt with that, though we will conclude here maternal nutrition. The goal of nutrition of pregnancy is to support maternal, placental and fetal metabolic needs. It may be first introduction, lifetime of healthy eating. So this is a nice statement from Calcutta, Dr. Bed Sudhir Chatterjee. He said long ago on Rebels Magic, the endocrinologist in Calcutta, insulin response is very accurately modulated by the calories load so that a normal human blood glucose remains stable in a narrow band in spite of wide variations of food intake. So that is what all of us go through if we are normal. Then the same thing happens in the intrauterine fetus also. Maternal glycemia and insulin response. What happens here? This is again very beautiful study here. Pregnancy induces a progressive change in maternal carbohydrate metabolism. As pregnancy advances, insulin resistance, diabetic stress due to placental hormones, it is natural. Everybody will go through that. The hormones necessitate compensatory increase in insulin secretion. So all these physiological phenomena will be there to raise the blood sugar level. At the same time, increase insulin secretion also will increase. This is shown in this slide here. Glucose into the 76, 88, 79, 78. All through pregnancy, the blood sugar is same almost. But whereas you will see here, insulin level from 12.3 it goes to 27. To maintain same blood sugar level, it almost goes to 2.5 times. That is what called progressively increasing insulin elaboration enables it to maintain the plasma glucose level following glucose growth throughout pregnancy. That means it's all manifestation. Such a beautiful insulin secretion will be a physiological response to glucose level to maintain the within normal range. So now this is called where this composition is inadequate, probably that lady will develop gestational diabetes mellitus occurs. Now having finished with the cause pathophysiology of little bit, then goes to this is another organ, placenta. Placenta is a temporary endocrine organ because it goes out, but it is one of the natural mechanism. It is endocrine organ, but only temporarily it is there. Placenta connects the developing fetus by the umbilical cord to the uterine wall to allow nutrient uptake, thermoregulation, waste elimination, and gas exchange by the mother's blood supply to fight against internal infection and to produce hormones which support pregnancy. So such an amount of function the placenta is doing. It's a poor thing. It develops and gets expelled after the child is born. Now this particular slide will tell you the placenta facilitates embryogenesis, growth, maturation, and survival of fetus. All these functions are done by placenta. The placenta has the capacity to synthesize steroid and peptide hormones and to modulate and transport maternal fluids. That is the job of the placenta. Its job is to see that the hormones are modulates, transport maternal fluids to the fetus, then an exquisite hormone metabolic adaptation. So nature given everything such a brutal responsibility to each organ what they when they become pregnant. Now the concept is that means placenta and infant for its own normal growth and development brings about alterations in the maternal fluids metabolism and hormones. It itself modulates. Here you will see here it is a very important statement. These hormone regulated adaptations include increased hepatic glucose production, the fasting state. See how the nature adjusts. If suppose mother is fasting, this goes to the liver, releases the glucose. So increase hepatic glucose production, the fasting state ensure a glucose supply to all times. Whereas in case when the child is fed state, mother takes food, maternal peripheral insulin resistance spares glucose for the fetus. The first stage. Changes in maternal metabolism during pregnancy will be like this: decreased fasting glucose level, increased postprandial glucose level, increased fasting and postprandial insulin levels, beta cell hypertrophy and hyperplasia, decrease in sensitivity, enhanced diabetes. All these things are responsible for getting the fetus nutrition. Now I'll show a study here. This lady, pre-pregnancy weight 52 kg, underwent treated twice. First time she came at 16th week, absolutely normal level of glucose, the fasting 1 or 2 and A1C is normal. And again she came at 26th, 20th week, absolutely again normal. But after that, as a custom of our Indian ladies, they go to mother's place. That's all. She is out of the sight. Nobody bothered about beyond 28 weeks. Then what happened here when they followed up? Did not count for follow-up as she left to her maternal place for confinement. There, by the time she went to the mother's for 52 kg, she developed 64 kg. 12 kg weight. That's the usual paternal care. And then, when delivered a female baby, there were 4 kg. And then she has to undergo the cesarean section. So, anyway, child was no complication. But here you see one cesarean section and child weight 4 kg. You will see what happened here. Now, the reason for this I am going to explain now. Each islet cell functions as an endocrine organ. Not only placenta, but in the pancreas also each islet has an endocrine organ because it produces so many hormones. The human pancreas begins to develop 4 weeks after conception. The first insulin deposit can be found between the weeks 7 and 8, so early it comes. And what is this? We're waiting for diagnosing 24th week. And then pancreatic silent differentiates 10th and 9th week of gestation, recognizes response to maternal glycemia at 11th week of gestation. So this fetal cell, I'm going to discuss a very important point now. The fetal beta cell is going to respond to maternal glycemia at 11th week itself. Then you can imagine now itself what is going to happen if blood sugar goes up after 12th week, because this fetal cell will respond to the maternal glucose. We'll see here. Amniotic fluid insulin, which originates from loss into the fetal urine, is just detectable at 12 weeks, more easily measurable from 14th week onwards. 11th week itself secretes. And here, elevated amniotic fluid insulin concentrations beginning at 14 weeks are associated not only with the mother's risk of developing GDM, but also with the risk of the fetus having a birth weight of more than 90%. It's a terrible message here. It's a very important message to know that 14th week itself is going to be a problem for the fetus. Now, this is very important slide here, schematic representation of maternal fetal nutrient transport in humans. Here, maternal side and fetal side, glucose can transfer from mother to the fetus. That is maternal glucose. And again, amino acids, these are all very important nutrients. They'll go between mother and the intrauterine fetus. Whereas triglycerides will not cross to the fetus. And then again, insulin will not cross, glucagon will not cross. So only nutrients will cross from mother to the fetus. Now this insulin glucagon will not cross. Now what is the reason? Why? What should be the mechanism or nature's way of dealing with pregnancy? Here we will see here contribution to glucose gradient. This is a very important subject here. I will take little more time here. Mother, placenta and fetus. Maternal glucose, suppose it is going to high, it will go to the glucose is going, definitely is going to go to the fetal compartment. It will go to the fetal compartment, and when it goes to fetal compartment, it definitely stimulates insulin in the fetal pancreas, as I told earlier. So poor glycemic control early in pregnancy will result in the establishment of fetal hyperinsulinemia, causing an exaggerated fetal glucose steal. Then the idea is here, because the glucose the mother has gone to the fetus. Fetus has produced more of insulin. Its sugar of the mother. I'll show in the next point. Here you will see here, because of the insulin has gone up in the fetal compartment, as a consequence, the overactive glucose steal will increase the disposal of maternal glucose to the fetus. So mother's glucose go to the fetus, thus attenuating the levels of maternal hyperglycemia. So the beauty is the child, intrauterine male child, tries to help her mother to bring her sugar low. Unfortunately, without knowing that that child is going to get a problem. As a consequence, overactive glucose steal will increase the disposal of maternal glucose into the fetus, thus attenuating the levels of maternal hyperglycemia. That is the nature's way of doing things. That child helps the mother. Then, as a consequence, importantly, this effect of lowering maternal glucose, this glucose goes low. Maternal glucose driven by the fetus, the greatest in pregnancies, the most hyperinsulinic fetuses. So more of insulin. When you check the blood sugar in the mother, you will think mother is normal. Unfortunately, it's a different thing happening, because the fetal handling of maternal glucose, that is why mother's blood sugar is normal. So now, this feto-placental dialogue and disability in a different way here. Maternal, insulin and glucose, they go both the way it goes. Then comes to the fetal placenta, goes to the fetal compartment, the glucose goes to fetus, in the intrauterine fetus. Again, it stimulates more of insulin. As a consequence, fetus hyperplasia. All this will produce increased fat tissue, adipose number, triglyceride deposition, hypothalamus. So child will become fat, diabetes risk. So first trimester, pregnancy, second and third one, child adulthood. That's how, unfortunately, this which we don't want could occur because of the high blood sugar level in the mother. That, and unfortunately, again, fetal started take care of the mother's blood sugar. She or the child also become obese. So this is a vicious cycle. So that is why And as Dr. Rajput was telling, maternal blood sugar should be within the absolutely within normal. Anywhere deviation, it's going to become a problem. Now, all available evidence suggests that the placenta is a passive conduit for the proportion of maternal glucose destined to reach the fetus, at least at the end of the gestation. So, thus maternal to fetal glucose flux is mostly dictated by the maternal to fetal glucose concentration gradient. So, that is why maternal glucose should never go up. So, again here, this is another important message here. An exaggerated glucose steal by hyperestemic fetus, it has to steal, could also attenuate the maternal glucose level during OGDT. That is what problem starts. You will be taking blood sugar normal, but it's normal because fetal has taken up the responsibility. Providing an explanation for why some mothers meet the fetuses with all characteristics of the most affected fetus have normal glucose tolerance. Fetus taking all the glucose, so you see the mother having a normal glucose tolerance. Thus, there is a risk that GDM will not be diagnosed in women with the most affected fetuses. This is the message I would like to convey here, and then probably this is what happened in the Indus case, which I told you that particular lady did not come to the hospital or did not go to any doctor for testing. Ultimately, she ended up in a produced a big baby, gained weight, and 4 kg. All complications occurred for a simple reason: she did not follow up. Then gestational weeks, again another important message I would like to share with you. Gestational weeks are ideal for screening. What time is screen? Most of us do that. Book usually recommended 24. It's very bad. Here, what you have done here, early screening for glucose tolerance and care could avoid some diabetes-related complications such as arrhythmias, fetal anomalies, and preterm birth in women with gestational diabetes mellitus. Now, I will show you a study what we have done here. It is our studies purely, we manage mostly GDM. Prevalence of GDM in different trimesters here. 16% will be in the first trimester, and the second trimester will be about 20 to 22%, and third trimester 62%. That means almost almost out of 451 women, 71.9 had more than 140 milligrams and identified as GDM. So you will see here less than 24 weeks, almost 38% of women have got the GDM. The manifestation, another study shows here in the trimesters here. If it is first trimester, 4,300 we screen, 31.5% had GDM positive. And second trimester again 42%. Third trimester 20. We will see here with textbook you follow third trimester, you will miss so almost 72% of you would have missed 73%. So that is why we say necessitating early weeks screening. A number of advantages will be there. We screen early weeks screening even before 9th week itself. Here we give one more case study here. This obstetric, you see, she had a fine 2.5 kg, no history of GDM, MTP done, present pregnancy, anti-woman, she had the blood sugar test around 28 weeks, she went there, and they found out fasting 102, PP 140, these values were ignored. The ultimate what happened, at just at 35 weeks, now from 28, 35, when the anti-woman went for routine ultrasonography for reveal, here important, it only revealed the fetal macrosomia, fetal weight was 3,080 grams. Anti-woman was then advised to do GGT. When they did that, that was found such a high level, fasting 131, 1 over 279, and 2 around 242. Anti-insulin was then referred to us around G36. What we did was immediately started insulin and brought it down to 112 and 172 and HG was 7.3. Fortunately, and we could bring it down to absolute normal level, 88, but still, in spite of our bringing it down to normal level, blood sugar, what we had an outcome of C-section was active under C-section, newborn birth weight 4.5 kg. This message out here is, even if you try to bring down your blood sugar of the mother, third trimester, late pregnancy, his blood sugar may become normal, but she cannot avoid the child becoming big baby. Now, the hallmark of diabetic fetopathy is fetal hyperinsulinemia, drives fetal fat accumulation, very often resulting in LGA birth. This is now this is just showing. Now again I would share one more important work which we have got the area. Early detection of glucose tolerance dependency. The care given results in good fit outcome similar to that of non-diabetic pregnancy. Here, this slide shows here, again this is IS center for only for GDM, 87 who were taken here. Out of the group 1, they came less than 23 weeks, and group 2, 33, more than 24 weeks. What happened here when the outcome of birth weight of units was 3.13 in the early group and about 3.42 in the later group. The messaging here is here. Birth weight of the infants born to Indian women in group 1 was 3.13. In group 2, 3.42, which was statistically significant. Just significant. Though there was no statistically significant difference in the glycemic control of the two groups. So that shows even though you try to control blood sugar, well, the second trimester, third trimester, you cannot avoid obese child become macrosomic. Diagnostic care from early weeks is very, very important. So coming to care, diet control, diabetic pregnancy, reverse beta hyperglycemia, fetal glucose still, no. Despite normalization of birth weight, management of GDM has not been shown to normalize the excess fetal adiposity. Thus, fetal hyperglycemia appears to be difficult to normalize with the usual approach to managing the mild maternal hyperglycemia. So finally, my comment here will be, we may not miss any GDM by screening around 24th week. But a substantial number of pregnant women who develop GDM in the earlier weeks of pregnancy are likely to have a delayed diagnosis and may not receive appropriate medical care. That is the message I want to convey here. And then pattern of glycemia and pregnancy, it's all this I just want to share with you. Fasting blood sugar, the target should be 71 plus or 9. The normal value is normal pregnancy, 2 or is less than 110. Suppose you want to have real control of blood sugar, if at all, if this should be the pattern of normal pregnancy. No, whatever you follow Western book, don't go. They themselves agree now, this should be at this level. And we also done here, target what we have done here will be fasting 8 to 90, because we got reference for this work. Postprandial personal 110, 120, and mean will be 95 and this is very, very essential, because otherwise the diabetes will become from the pandemic, now it will become universal. The goal is to obtain newborn baby's birth weight appropriate for gestation age between 2.5 and 3.5. A step to prevent offspring developing diabetes. So your aim should be, child should be only 2.3, but not less or not more. A step to prevent offspring developing diabetes mellitus. So this slide will show you, suppose a child was born to between 2.5 to 3.5 is ideal. For less than 2.5, the child, then when she grows up, she will become diabetic. Same way, more than 4.5, she will become diabetic. The message is here, better to aim for 2.5, 3.5. Here I will tell you one small message here. Potential pathways explaining the relationship between under and over nutrition. Poor malnutrition, reduced birth weight, increased appetite, early postnatal life, catch-up growth, rapid postnatal growth, altered leptin synthesis and secretion, increased visceral adiposity, peripheral resistance, diabetes. And finally, here, when they increase food intake, decrease food expenditure, neuroendocrine, pancreatic, skeletal muscle, and adiposity dysfunction, increased adiposity, insulin resistance, future adult disease. So the message is here, whether it's undernutrition or overnutrition or small for gestation, or both can develop diabetes. So I was very careful to bring it 2.5 to 3.5. We can do that. In fact, our diabetes awareness project we have done, National Family Health Survey, it's a small for gestation was about 17%, brought it down to 10.5, 41%. Then LGA 19%, we brought it down to 63% less. So this single initiative achieving birth weight of infants appropriate for gestation age would have significant positive effect on the overall health of the family and the community. So spectrum will be here completing my talk here. While it may be consequence of maternal glycemic only, other nutrients such as amino acids and fatty acids and or hormones, cytokines could also contribute, particularly in the pregnancies of obese mothers in whom glucose tolerance is normal but cord blood CPET levels are shown to be elevated at birth. So what is the consequence of that here? It's a frightening paper. I'm really unhappy to see this paper, but I have to share with you. A study published in American Government College of Obstetrics and Gynecology suggests that women who are obese during pregnancy may be more likely to have infertile sons. That is what I'm really taken aback on seeing this paper. But more likely to have infertile sons. The researchers say that maternal overweight may be tied to hormone imbalance that affect the development of male offspring's reproductive system. This is a very, very dangerous thing to happen, and we have to take very care that overweight should be avoided, as Rajput was telling here. That very careful, overweight should not occur in the during pregnancy. So this study, which included 9,000 women and women aged between 30 and 34, found that sons born to overweight mothers were 40% more likely to be infertile than those born to mothers of non-weight. So it's a very pitiable statement I made here, but you have to believe that this is published data. So we have to advise, we must advise silently without telling this is going to happen. You tell them, please maintain your weight, not to gain weight. That's what I was my final message. Now friends, female gender, the key to NCD prevention is with healthy pregnancy, low birth weight or large gestation age, elevated risk of obesity, diabetes, hypertension, CVD, intergeneration, from one generation to another generation, because they link to the NCD epidemic. That is a matter of health. So, prevention of non-communicable diseases, preventive measures against NCD should start during introductory period and continue throughout life from early childhood. And GDM offers an important opportunity for the development, testing, and implementation of the clinical strategies for NCD prevention. So my final message will be here. It is necessary to optimize metabolic control early in pregnancy. This will necessitate pre-pregnancy planning for women with pre-existing diabetes as well as for those at increased risk of GDM. Better means of safely normalized glycemia. So GDM, we all should remember, GDM is the mother of non-communicable diseases. That should be gone to everybody's mind. And then finally, the Norman Frankel, the great fellow, no single period in human development provides greater potential than pregnancy or long-range payoff by a relatively short-range period of midnight and metabolic impulse. A short period, if you take care, probably you can avoid the child becoming diabetes in the future. So I started with the Chanakya complete my talk here. The womb is more important than the home. Hence, we have to focus on the fetus for the future. That is what I started with the womb. I'm going to complete the same statement of the Chanakya. And finally, it all starts in intro. Now we are thinking of accept that all starts in intro and as opined by Chanakya. Thank you very much for your passion here. Thank you very much.